Leftovers. It's a series brought to you by Flashfood. I'm Jordan, as we all know. Today we are with Anna Robertson. Anna has created an incredible business called The Cool Down. It is the #1 lifestyle brand in the world, looking at sustainable and climate forward solutions, all the content. I'm super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here and such a fan of Flashfood and all you guys are doing.
I am also a huge fan of your guys' work. It's like you guys showed up on the scene and it's been like the immediate industry thought leader, the immediate like go-to place. It's been like a overnight success. I want you to share like the journey that brought you to this, because that has to be obviously propelled by like deep insight, deep passion.
Well, that's very kind of you. It doesn't feel like it's been an overnight success, but I do think we're in the right time at the right place. And the Cool Down. I'm one of the co-founders of the Cool Down, along with Dave Finocchio and Ryan Alberti, my co-founders. They both came from Bleacher Report, so from the sports industry, and I came from a media background. So I spent over 2 decades in the traditional media industry, starting at Good Morning America and as Diane Sawyer's producer for many years, sort of traveling the world and covering the biggest stories, the Iraq War, Hurricane Katrina, 9/11, tsunami in Asia, etc. I've always known I wanted to be a journalist and somebody who tells stories to help connect people with information that they need. And so I have done that, ABC, Disney, Yahoo, etc. And most recently at the ABC-owned television stations, working in local news, around local news. Dave and Ryan had started the Bleacher Report and had really built the most successful and connective sports brands. And so we all came together around a shared passion about climate. I had kind of spent some time in the local news space thinking about weather, which is the #1 topic for local news consumers. And obviously weather is being impacted by the changes that we're seeing in our climate. And so I knew that covering climate change and helping local communities to sort through what was happening would be really important if we wanted to succeed in local news. And so I started, a weather climate change unit with ABC News, National Geographic, with our local meteorologists, connecting them to the national teams. And all in the midst of that, we had a pretty significant wildfire in Los Angeles where I was living. My family and I were evacuated in the middle of the night, and the light bulb just sort of went off for me. And I realized
It became
that
real. It was it became real.
Yeah, I realized that this was this was going to be our future. And I had done a lot of work at ABC to tell that story, kind of connecting the work that the meteorologists had seen across the country with the expertise of National Geographic, et cetera. But I decided that I really wanted to understand why there wasn't a mainstream climate brand, because when I asked my friends and family around me, they weren't connecting to it as much as I was. And I think, as I got involved and learned more about the climate space, I learned that, #1, there's so many innovations that can shape a better future, and it is not too late. And most of the climate news was really dominated by doom and gloom. A lot of climate content has been very boring. It hasn't been very connected to how people live their lives. A lot of the solutions have just seemed too hard to wrap your head around. And so I just got passionate about, what if we started a mainstream climate brand that could connect more people to these topics? And I ended up meeting Dave and Ryan, and we just decided to start the Cool Down in 2022 to really see if we could reach people at scale around these topics. And we have become, as you mentioned, the largest brand reaching people around these issues. We reach about 35 million people a month. We have a very robust newsletter with about 4 million opens a month, 50% open rate. We have a lot of great community around us. And, not only have we become a place to come for practical solutions that help you to save money and live healthier while also helping the planet, we have also really become a marketplace for the clean economy. And we see a really engaged audience that wants to take action in their own lives. And so we try to make it easier for them to do so.
You've got what, like 1 in 8 Americans? You've got that level of attention, but then you've got like the running narrative of like what climate is in terms of industry and where innovation and where focus was. It feels like we're in this world again where there's like a disconnect, where people in their everyday lives are like, this is still important to me, but then this sort of narrative, maybe in industry or business or tech, it's like it's misaligned. What's driving that, or where do you think that's coming from everything that you've seen in your world?
Yeah, well, I think if we just peel it back a little bit, and our approach has really been not kind of focusing on climate on the nose all the time or sustainability, but really thinking about what are the things that people love and what are the things that people value. So, whether it's topics like gardening or renovating their home or making an upgrade in their house, thrifting, shopping, tech, cars, whatever it might be. Climate is everything. Climate is affecting all of the things that we love and care about. And so when we approach it through that lens, as well as thinking about the value propositions that really matter to people. So as much as people say they want to save the planet, which we all do, ultimately, we want to live healthier lives. We want our families to be healthier, and we want to save money and want things that are going to work for us. That's really the lens through which we approach everything that we do, as opposed to, making it a climate story in the headline every time. And we try to explain things in plain English so that people can really understand what's going on, which was another problem that I think we found in this space. With regards to the disconnect, I think there's far less of a disconnect than we make it seem. I mean, when you poll people, most people care about climate change and most people want to do something about it. Not enough of us are talking about climate change, and that is really the biggest problem. We need more people to take action. But I think, the clean energy transition is happening. It is not going anywhere. We often talk about the politics involving climate change, but when you actually sit with conservatives, which is something that I have spent a lot of time doing in my career, particularly at the Cool Down, because we can't solve this problem if it's just one side or the other. We all care about the same things. We all want clean air. We all want clean water. We all, we can find so much common ground. And so where is that common ground, and how do we talk about those things in a way that, that depoliticizes the issue? Because we are seeing just an exponential growth in solar, in heat pumps, and we see it from our audience. We have such a huge interest from our audience in clean energy products and services, particularly because of the incentives and rebates, as well as products like Flashfood, like Trashy, like practical solutions for our day-to-day lives around how to, reduce our food waste and save money, or how to, get rid of our old stuff and save money. We are literally sitting in the middle of it and watching mainstream consumers who read our articles and then want to take these actions. And so I feel a lot more hopeful than I think, you see out there. And from a business standpoint, I've interviewed dozens of leaders over the last year at all of the big companies. And although we talk about DE&I and all the politicization and all these things, businesses are prioritizing sustainability because it makes good business sense. It helps them save money to be more efficient. And they know that the next generation consumer is demanding these changes happen. So my big, takeaway from interviewing literally every leader that I have spoken to has been, this is not a box to check. This is about building business growth, new revenue lines, and protecting our business for years to come.
We can say consumers are demanding it. When we look at venture funding as a whole, there has been a radical shift, at least in call it major initiatives. And you see some of the CEOs, they're saying it, but then you look at where it starts to net on the actual reported financials, and there's a shift, at least in terms of where the dollar is being put. Have you heard anything about that, or have any reactions to that as a whole, or do you think that's also just kind of coming out of a more fiscally conservative period that we've been in? And I say that also coming from startup land, where I went from the world of throw $1 billion at it to let's give them nothing. And actually, it's fine if it goes away.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we are not in the place that we want to be in terms of what kind of funding is going to climate tech and consumer climate tech. And in terms of what businesses are doing, because we have seen a lot fewer businesses talking about this issue publicly, a lot of businesses pulling back on, their ability to achieve the targets that they set out. So I'm not going to say that's not disappointing and there's not concern there, because we do need that. But I think that the solution to creating a better future involves so many different aspects of progress. And our approach at the Cool Down is to be a bit more optimistic about where we're heading, but also realistic about what we're seeing. And so I think that we are seeing really strong signals from the consumer and really strong growth in a lot of areas. Yes, we need to move faster, but there are so many other levers other than private equity funding, other than businesses. And I do think that, you do see people, consumers, especially younger consumers, leveraging their purchasing power and their voice to support companies who do remain committed to these issues and are following up on some of their obligations.
I'm always kind of getting at it, because I look at it too as someone who's been sort of in the realm of what did we do we had it, like it was moving fast, and then somewhere along the lines, like the narrative fumbled. And I always wonder if it was like a matter of almost like overly polarizing it. To your point, like why the cool down exists is like it's not about like am I climate or not? It's like this is my life, right? And how do I engage it? Like, did we over polarize it, or did we overcomplicate it? Like the whole reality of it, and is like what we're dealing with sort of now the like, hangover of those two things. And I feel like the work that you're doing tries to answer it, which is just like be human.
I was reluctant to get into the climate space. I always have cared about it, but I think, as a journalist, I thought, gosh, I don't know if I want to spend my time doing that day in and day out, because it could be pretty overwhelming or maybe even depressing. And I've found in this role that I'm actually more optimistic, now that I see everything day in and day out. And there are going to be ups and downs. There are always going to be ups and downs, particularly how people talk about things publicly. But I think we believe that anytime we've had to do something hard in human history, we've needed mainstream America to understand and to be, educated about it. And I think one of the bright spots that I see is that consumers are becoming much more active and much more educated. I mean, if you look at some of the campaigns and some of the, even just to read labels. I mean, I just interviewed, the woman who runs Yuka, who's the, the food scanning app. And if you look at what Consumer Reports has done and, driving petitions around, demands for healthier food, for less plastic. I mean, consumers are really, they're not dumb, and they are understanding these issues more and more. And so I think that, I think the only choice we have, we can, yes, throw up our hands and say, oh, I wish more companies were focused on this. I wish that more money was coming into the space. But, for me, the only thing I can do is get up every day and try to do what I can to connect more people to this topic and, hopefully inform and activate those people to make better choices in their own homes, in their local communities, because it all matters. It really does, and to demand better of the companies that are turning their back on it, and to elect politicians that are going to prioritize climate as an issue for them.
Yeah. What have been some sort of stories or things that have really won for you all? What are things that you're like, that wasn't as trendy as I thought? I believed in it, but it wasn't as trendy as I thought it was, like on either side of it. I definitely know folks will be curious on that because everyone's trying to find the like, how do I tell these stories? And like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think we've been surprised over the last 6 months, as I mentioned, to see the interest in things like heat pumps and solar panels, which used to be, very hard for people to wrap their head around or very hard to access. And now we just see a huge interest in people signing up for solar panels and heat pumps and induction cooktops and all of these things, partly because of, again, the money savings benefits that they can get from making those upgrades, but also the health impacts, in their own lives. I mean, I think if you think about gas stoves, when we first launched our company, we were like, oh, we can't talk about gas stoves. We knew they were bad, but, people would be too, might be scared by it. But I mean, now we see so much research that shows that, 1 in 8 childhood asthma cases are attributed to having a gas stove in the home. And so, there's a huge interest in induction and largely because, it boils your water twice as fast and it doesn't emit toxic.
It's amazing.
It's so easy to clean. It's great with kids. So I think like things like that we thought would be too hard for people to wrap their head around, I think have really resonated. We have positioned ourselves as a marketplace for the clean economy, and we've partnered with major brands to try to connect the dots between those consumers who have a lot of questions about heat pumps and do they work in the cold, and can they save me money, and which one should I go with, and also the brands that people can trust to work with. So we've had a huge success in that. I think there are certain topics that are super connective. So for us, like gardening is a really great top of the funnel topic where people just people are passionate about gardening, and it's a great way to get them into the tent and then sort of educate them more about all of the things that surround gardening. Thrifting is another great one. That's a huge category for us, as well as just kind of getting rid of your old stuff. I think that's been a huge one. Circular economy has been a big topic that people love to have a reward for recycling or upcycling, whether it's their old tech, whether it's old clothes or sneakers or whatever. And so that's been a pillar for us that has been a really great connection point with our audience.
Heat pumps has been like a total sleeper. We just sold. Well, one, I'm friends with the folks that like quilt, so like I'm gonna shout them out because I obviously think that they've built such incredible, beautiful tech. But we just sold our place, and one of the questions from the buyer was like, they had asked us, because we lived in this, it was a condo, and they're like, can you turn the pilot light off? And you used to not, like, those, like, people weren't thinking about like pilot lights, and then and I'm like, oh, I was like telling my husband, I'm like, oh my God, it's because he's thinking about like the climate impact of that pilot light, and like is probably thinking about heat pumps, and it's so wild to see that change
Also because,
happen.
yeah, because your gas stove is emitting those toxic fumes even when it's not on. And so a lot of
Yeah.
people, a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, I mean, having solar panels on your roof is, something now that's a big value add, right? For
Yeah.
people who are buying a new home. So we're going to just see, more and more of that. That was, I just spent the last few days at CES, and so many of the technologies were focused on, energy saving
Mhm.
devices for your homes, ways to track your energy and calibrate your energy, being more, energy independent and reliant at home. And then also just like ways to be healthier in your house,
Yeah.
your air quality and all of that kind of thing. So.
It's so interesting. Like we've kind of entered the like second or third wave of the connected home is actually more deeply tied to like the connected impact. It's very fascinating. It was very like when they started to pitch the story initially, it was like, yay, everything can talk to each other, but like no one was actually saying like actually what's going to be amazing is you can quite literally measure the impact in all of these different ways. And so that's you're giving me I have a lot of optimism obviously because I work in it, but then it's hard not to be like, oh, like here, like we've got another, like we just have to keep going. We just have to keep figuring these
Yeah,
things
and just look
out.
to all the innovators. I mean, look at what Flashfood has done and built in a whole new category, of something that didn't even exist. I mean, same thing with Quilt and Copper. And, there are just so many great companies that are, creating beautiful and innovative products that are solving these issues. And so those are, becoming more and more common. And we're just really excited to amplify those products and services to connect those with the audience we've developed.
That's super helpful. Well, what has like what have you guys put out that like isn't like what isn't sticking?
What isn't sticking?
I know you don't want to say you can if you can say it in the way that's like as optimistic as possible, but more so like what hasn't like what doesn't like go as viral because you guys are sort of at the like you start a lot of those trends that are happening now. Like
Yeah,
what's not
I'm
a sticky
trying to
topic?
think. I don't know. I can't think about anything that has been a big dud for us lately. Usually we kind of try something and move on pretty quickly if it doesn't work.
How have you, because you've been having a lot of conversations at the table with different people, I'll ask just like sort of one more question. How have you shifted your language or how you sort of build that bridge between the people who have been more cynical lately? How do you, as like Anna, bring people to the table to continue to have the dialogues, the skeptics, the cynics? But, I mean, there's a lot of people still on the journey, I think is the reality. And you get to sit with a lot of folks that are on that journey.
First of all, having more conversations at the dinner table and with friends and family and really playing up the benefits of the switches to, better products and services. Finding common ground around the things that all matter to us. Like, don't you want to have, and not from a place of fear, but don't you
Mm-hmm.
want to have healthier air and
Yeah.
all of those things. And just the fact that it is not too late to do something. Every single thing that we do to reduce that warming is going to make a difference. And so, I had a light bulb moment during those wildfires back in 2018. I think a lot of people are going to have a light bulb moment given what's happened in Los Angeles, where there are obviously many, many factors that went into the situation there. But we certainly know that climate change created a tinderbox and, stacked the weather dice against us in that instance because
Mm-hmm.
of the heat, because of the extreme weather that is being created by a warming planet in so many ways. And so helping people to wrap their head around that and understand that we need to approach it from a place of action and not from a place of fear, I think is just going to be really critical to creating a better future for all of us.
It was really beautifully said. Actually, very succinct in the way that you said it because it's super true. So this whole show is about the leftovers, and we always take it back to food because that's where we're at. In your fridge right now, I mean, we're in your kitchen. What leftover is in there? Are you
Well, at
gonna
the end
eat
of the week,
it?
I do like a lot of meal planning, and
Yeah.
I kind of try to plan everything out so that I try to waste as little food as possible, which is one of the easiest ways to cut down your food waste. I always have like at the end of the week, some rice and usually like a bunch of vegetables left over, and so
Yeah.
one of the greatest recipes is just like a big, kind of fried rice, stir fried type of thing, or some eggs with a bunch of the leftover vegetables, and so I always have like Right now I have a couple avocado, like half avocados. I have a bunch of hard boiled eggs in there, and a lot of vegetables and rice. That's what's in my fridge right now.
So like your end of week solution to everything in the fridge is like fried rice it.
Yeah,
That's
just
like
put it all together in like either an egg scramble or a fried rice situation. Or
yeah.
Friday night's a lot of times pizza night for us, so we'll get like pizza dough from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, or make some pizza dough or whatever it might be, and then just like put all the vegetables and everything on the pizza, cook them, and then like put them into a sauce, so my kids don't see them and they can be secret veggies.
Yeah.
Put those onto a pizza. So those are some of my good hacks for using up the leftovers.
I love that. Well, I really appreciate your time today, and
Yeah.
thank you for coming and chatting through all this stuff. You are truly like the work you're doing with your team is creating a ton of space, a ton of optimism for the work ahead. I mean, as we know, we've got a lot of work to do. And sometimes, like me, it's easy to feel like tired in the process, right? So I leave this feeling like super inspired and reminded that it is this like incredible journey that it's important to make things digestible and human and close to folks and not a million miles away. So
Well, back at you. Thank you for everything you're doing, and call me up whenever you need a pep talk, because we all need that sometimes. Yeah, it's great to see you, and I'm glad we could make this work.